In continuing with my sketches, what I want to do is I want to start to put them together into a presentation. So these sketches all came from other sketchbooks, pages from my sketchbook that I had. And basically, for example, with this one, what I did was I took my polygonal lasso, okay, which is right underneath your preset lassos, and then what I did is I just copied, okay, and pasted it in, or what you can do is you can actually drag over the selection and drag it into your sheet, like that, okay. But what I did when I did that is I did the same exact thing that we've been doing, the whole time, trying to create these as black and white, going through the same process, cleaning them up a bit with some of the tools. This one, I used a lot of the eraser tool. So essentially with all these dots here, I would take the eraser and I would just go up and clean up large swatches, okay, and using the same color as the page behind it. Okay, you can see how that works. And now what I want to do is I want to compile these into a presentation. So I'm going to back out of this real quick to see all that I have. And what I want to do is I want to start to form what the idea is behind these drawings, okay, and which drawings are more important than others. So this one I find to be one of the most important because it gives me a view. So I'm going to click on that layer, and you'll see that that's the drawing that I have that's on that layer. And because it's the most important, okay, so there's different ways that we're going to start to look at presentations. And one of them, is filmic, where everything has the same hierarchy, they have the same scale, so on and so forth. But this one, what I want to do is I want to create some hierarchy with it. So I'm going to take this image, okay, and I'm going to transform it, okay, either by hitting Control-T or going to Edit and Transform. Okay, and you can transform the scale of it. Now if I hold down Shift, that constrains my proportions, and I can stretch it and make it bigger. Okay, now the one problem in doing that is that we have to make sure that our scans and our drawings are of good quality, because if they're not, then the lines are going to start to become pixelated, the image is going to be pixelated, and it's not going to look very good. Okay. Now when we start to compile this, what we have to do is we have to make sure that we pay attention to our lines, okay, because what those do is they set up these datum lines for us, okay, and I can articulate that by going into my rulers, okay, and pulling down a guide. Okay, so this essentially is one of the datum lines that is created by this line, okay, that's located in my drawing. And what we want to do is we want to move the eye around the page. So what I want to do is I want to have the focus on this, but I also want the viewer to be able to experience this part of the page and to move the eye around the sheet by using the geometry that's in the drawing itself. Okay, this is the other strong element. So this essentially works as kind of like a square, and where our eye is going to land. And then what is going to happen is that our eye is going to pick up some of these lines, and it's going to move in that direction. And you need something on the other end, okay, to be able to receive that. Now, what I can also do is I can essentially move this drawing here, okay, and I have this strong line that could potentially create this datum line. Okay, it all depends. There's no prescriptive way of doing this. How much this affects what somebody's viewing is another issue, but those are things that we have to start to look at. So I'm just going to start by placing my images around the sheet. Okay, I might have, this might meet up with this line here, because this is a very strong horizontal orientation to it, and I'm also going to make it a little bit bigger. You'll see that I do have my notes on there, so I did include that in my sketches. Okay, so I'm going to move this down like that. And then, this has this opening up of this space. Now again, whether or not that's successful, you just have to test it out. Okay, my next image is here. Okay, again, I might make this bigger. And you'll see that with the newer versions of Photoshop, there's actually some advanced features with their guides in, aligning your composition. I'm going to move this guy probably over a little bit more. Might move this guy up a little bit, and then maybe I'll have, you know, I'm kind of trying to match up this negative and this negative here. Maybe I take those two and move them over, and then have this space here for this perspective. Okay, or maybe this one, you know, works in having the space being funneled through here. You know, and then does it work to put this here? I don't know. You know, and does it work to put this somewhere else? Okay, basically what you have to do is you just have to move around a lot in order to start to arrange this. And I'm going to select all of these, and I'm just going to move them to the center more. You know, again, this aspect of hierarchy, you know, what do I want to show as the most important? It might be, you know, this image and this image. And what's nice about this is you have this diagonal line that goes into the diagonal of this image here too. So that helps in moving your eye around the image and around the presentation. And that maybe these guys, oops, not you, but this acts more as a supporting role. Okay, maybe that gets a little smaller because it's not as important. Okay, but what I'm doing is I'm trying to take advantage of this diagonal and this diagonal to move your eye up and to experience that image. Oops, and you'll find that what happens is once you start to work with this, especially with the images, they might cut each other off. So what I want to do is I might put this underneath, and I can take my eraser tool, oops, not you, and erase parts of this drawing so that this drawing shows up. Okay, and I might take this one and just move it out just a little bit. And if I want to, you know, delete huge swatches of things, I'll just take my selection box and delete. And then maybe I'll make this one just a little bit bigger. And then if I need to, I can use those transformation tools. You know, so for example, if this is looking a little bit skewed, I can take this and I can use my transform tools. So I'm going to use the distort. Not on you, sorry. Under edit and transform and distort. And you can also do a free transform by using Control T. And I can start to kind of skew it a little bit. It's a little off, you know, because this is always going to be not parallel to this. So if I want it to be close enough, what I can use is I can use my distort. And I can distort it enough where it might look close enough. And I can take this image here, 3, and I can do my Control T, which is my transform. And if it's not giving me the option I want, what I want to do is I want to rotate it. I'm going to go to Edit and Rotate, so I can selectively transform it. And, you know, I can play with, well, do I want the horizontal to pick up, you know, up there, or do I want the horizon just to be the top of that image. So it really is just about arranging them so that your eye moves around the composition easily, that it's not getting stuck somewhere. Okay, and that's in recognizing, the areas of contrast and the diagonals of the lines, and whatever's in your image itself in order to get your eye to move around the sheet.